Oh, yeah. No, apologies again. Further delays. The schedule got completely mixed up. So they are close by and will come, but they are holed up at the moment. So please be patient and apologies again. They are on their way, and you will see them very soon, and not me anymore. 10-15 minutes. Salam alaikum, good afternoon, and first of all, thank you very much for your patience and apologies for the delay. It's a great pleasure to welcome you to the opening press conference of COP28. I'm here with the newly elected COP President, His Excellency Dr. Sultan Al Jaber, Executive Secretary Simon Stiell, Hana Al-Hashimi, UAE COP Lead Negotiator, and last but not least, Ambassador Majid Al-Suwaidi, the COP28 Director General. We will hear a few remarks and then we have time for a few questions. Over to you, Executive Secretary, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much, Alex. And as he started, apologies for the late start to this press conference. And I want to start by just acknowledging the positive start to the opening of this COP. And I want to commend the UAE presidency for its leadership, as well as the previous Egyptian COP presidency. Loss and damage has been a central priority of the UN's climate efforts. So it's been a privilege for UN climate change to facilitate the work of the Transitional Committee and working very closely with the presidencies and the work within the Transitional Committee. We heard from the two co-chairs. We believe all parties left there sufficiently happy. There was the discussions were challenging. This is 30 years worth of discussion, which concluded in Sharm el-Sheikh last year with that historic decision to establish the fund and funding arrangements. But the challenge was how within a one-year period with just 5 meetings of the committee to actually work out the details and iron out the details of how to operationalize it, and not just operationalizing it, but also to start that seed capital for it, which we were all there to witness. So today's news on loss and damage gives this UN climate conference a running start. All governments and their negotiators must use this momentum to deliver truly ambitious outcomes here in Dubai. We must keep our eyes on the prize, and every minute counts. So I want you to think of those people as the negotiations take place. And that's what energizes me, and that's what inspires me as we support this process. So when the going gets tough, I urge the negotiating teams to move beyond traditional negotiating positions and to find solutions and pathways forward. And as I said in my opening speech, to turn those badges around the necks of each of the delegates into badges of honor, and as they represent the millions of people that they are working for. We still have a lot of work ahead of us. Loss and damage is just one of the negotiating tracks. But the spirit in which parties have engaged as we ended the pre-sessional week, where negotiators were engaging constructively, where the Secretariat met with all parties, all negotiating groups. And what is consistent across all of those negotiating groups and all of the parties that we've met is that willingness to start these negotiations with a constructive and engaged outlook. So we need to work and build on what we have seen today as we work through the 12, 13 days that are ahead of us. I'm happy to take questions.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Executive Secretary. We first go to His Excellency COP28 President. You have the floor.
Good evening, everyone. Allow me first to start by saying how pleased I am to have this opportunity to welcome you to the United Arab Emirates, to Dubai, and to COP28. I'm sure most of you feel what I actually feel. I came into this task with a full understanding of what it takes to manage this process. I took this task with humility and with a deep sense of responsibility and a great sense of urgency. And that's why we have approached this task in a completely different and an unconventional way. The extraordinary effort that have been put into this task, I must say, it's paying off. Why so and how so? The fact that we have been able to achieve such significant milestone in the first day of this COP is unprecedented. This is historic. The fact that we were able to get the agenda voted and agreed on without any delay. For those who have been involved in previous COPs, this is just unprecedented. The fact that we've been able to deliver what was promised in Sharm el-Sheikh. The fact that we've been able to activate, operationalize, and pass the threshold that have been associated with the establishment with this fund is historic and is a unique, unprecedented achievement. So how do I feel? I feel excited, determined, and I'm sure most of you feel the positivity, the optimistic environment and ambience that we are all experiencing here at this very place. I have been to 12 COPs before. Each one had its own unique proposition. I must say though, never ever did I feel this level of excitement and this level of enthusiasm among all sincere and genuine parties involved in this discussion. Those who have come here to help advance this agenda in a way that is meaningful, that is true, and that is real, and to help address it by providing real solutions for the real world. I must say, this is not a small achievement. In fact, it is a historic achievement, and it is a very good start for this very important and consequential COP. Now, the real work only begins. And like I said in my opening remarks, I am determined to demonstrate that this COP is a different COP, and this presidency is a different presidency. We are laser focused on keeping 1.5 within reach, and we are laser focused on delivering the maximum, highest ambition in response to the global stocktake. And you know that this is not going to be a small task. And we all know that the next 2 weeks are not going to be easy 2 weeks. Yet, because of the commitment and the dedication and the hard work of the Secretariat and the COP28 team, and how this is being met and matched by many interested parties, I am more confident than ever that we will deliver an unprecedented result. That means real solutions and real outcomes to help address this global challenge. We need to start thinking differently about this COP process. We can no longer only judge on ink being put on paper. We should always question how executable and how implementable and how actionable these decisions and these declarations and these agreements are. And that is what we are focused on. Our main focus is going to continue to be on translating visions and aspirations and declarations and decisions into real practical actions that will make a difference. Today, like I said, the threshold was 200 to establish and operationalize this fund. We reached north of 420 million US dollars only in the first hour. And I know that over the next couple of days, many more pledges and many more commitments are going to be made by different heads of states and different heads of governments. And I must here say that this would not have been possible if it wasn't for the hard work and the dedication of the transitional committee members, Egypt, the Secretariat, and many relevant parties and stakeholders. And I also like to thank Germany, UK, EU, US, and Japan for their pledges during the plenary earlier today. Getting this done and over the line is a clear demonstration of how committed we are and how our approach is different. When we commit, we deliver, and that is going to be the DNA of COP28. I thank you all for being here, and I want you to know I will be working hand in hand with everybody, with everyone. I'll be rubbing shoulders with every party, and I will be rolling up my sleeves myself, engaging and helping address this challenge and delivering real, actionable results. I thank you again for being here.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Ambassador Majid.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Sultan Al Jaber. I think I would like to welcome you all to the UAE, and it's great to see so many friends who we've engaged with over the course of this year. And I know I speak for Dr. Sultan when I say that the success of this first day of COP is really thanks to the leadership of the UAE, and the reflection we have today is thanks to the guidance that we've received from them, who've always been pushing us to be as ambitious as possible. And it reflects their approach to everything that they do in the UAE in terms of they don't just talk about it, they deliver it. And at the opening ceremony of COP28, you saw our COP president not just talk about it, but him deliver results from day one. And that's something that I certainly am very proud to be a part of. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Majid Al-Suwaidi. I'm the Director General of COP28. I'll be engaging with you over the course of the coming days, hopefully answering many of your questions and working with you to make sure that we get the news out to the world about the exciting things that you're going to see coming in the coming days. I hope that we can all get to know each other, and please come and talk to me when you get a chance. I've been in diplomacy for many years. I was previously the ambassador to Spain, Andorra, and the Vatican, but also was lead negotiator for the UAE up to Paris, from Durban to Paris. I've had the honor to work in many different missions, but I think that this year has been one of my favorite, getting to be with the minister, traveling around the world, engaging with people, talking to young people, indigenous communities, youth groups, NGOs. We haven't left anybody that we haven't spoken to, and I feel that the agenda, the program, and the actions that you'll see at COP28 reflect that. We need strong results from the negotiated outcomes, but also an action agenda that engages both parties and non-parties, like civil society, business communities, and other groups to catalyze progress here at COP28. Before I start, I want to take a moment to congratulate Dr. Sultan Al Jaber on his official appointment as COP28. I haven't said that yet, President. And we've known each other for many years, and it's a very proud moment for me. He founded Masdar, and he's chairman of that. He's transformed our renewable energy landscape in this country. He's been our special envoy. He's been to many COPs, many of which I've been with him, where he's driven us to be as ambitious as possible. And I know that he's going to deliver real action and real results at this COP, and I have full confidence in him. This COP has to be an inflection point, not just a checkpoint. This is a responsibility that we as a COP presidency take very seriously. We want ambitious actions that course correct, and the hard work is ongoing, has been going on for many, many months, and we know the real test starts today. Tomorrow, the World Climate Action Summit will open, where leaders will deliver decisive direction for decision on the global stocktake so that we can raise our ambition, close the gaps to 2030, and unite and act and deliver. Over the 2 days, we will have critical sessions on transforming climate finance, on adaptation, on mitigation, and so much more, and I hope that you'll be there for those. During these sessions, we're confident that we will also see a host of exciting announcements being made, and I look forward to being able to reflect on them with you in greater detail in the coming days. Our COP will be fully inclusive. This means that we will engage parties, but also other groups traditionally left out of the room, including youth, indigenous people, and others, and we'll be advancing progress across a host of important issues as we go forward. On the intersection of climate change and conflict, as well as understanding how technology can catalyze progress to decarbonize our world. We'll be hosting the first local climate action summit in partnership with Bloomberg, and in recognition of the critical role of local leaders play in reducing emissions, addressing climate risk, and supercharging national efforts to move further and faster on climate progress. And the Business and Philanthropy Climate Forum, which will seek to unlock private capital and catalyze the innovation required to meet our climate ambitions. After the World Climate Action Summit, we will begin our 2-week thematic program. As you've already heard, we conducted the most extensive listening tour of any presidency to help create this year's action agenda. We engaged all stakeholders and listened to all perspectives in that process. We're doing things differently here in Dubai. We want everyone at the table because everyone is needed to deliver the game-changing results and the good news that the world needs. Each day of our thematic agenda is underpinned by 4 cross-cutting themes to support delivery, which are technology and innovation, inclusion, frontline communities, and of course, finance. And for the first time, we're putting issues like trade and health at the heart of this agenda. In the build-up to COP, we've already seen significant progress and critical momentum, but now we must turn this momentum into actionable outcomes. We have no time for polarization and arguments. It is time for solidarity, partnerships, and action. The message here today is clear. We're confident about what we can achieve at this COP, and I would be honored to hand over to my colleague, Hannah Al-Hashimi, our chief negotiator and one of the brilliant young people we have working on our team. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador, for the very kind introduction, and congratulations, Mabruk Doctor, on your nomination as President of the COP. It's been an absolute honor to have worked with you on the bid to get here. Hard to believe that 3 years ago that we'd be sitting here today having the fastest adoption, I think, of an agenda, the smoothest one that allowed people to get a good night's sleep as well as an incredible historic capitalization of a fund that we didn't even know would exist 3 years ago. So thank you, sir, for your leadership. Thank you, Simon, for your partnership. And to all present today and watching online, thank you for your commitment, for hoping towards what can be achieved, and your commitment to supporting us in working towards that. Allow me to also issue you a warm welcome to the United Arab Emirates and to Dubai. We are thrilled to have you all here, to have your passion, to have your excitement together with us to deliver what we hope will be a truly monumental COP. Let me perhaps say a little bit about my role as lead negotiator. One of the most fulfilling parts of that is to lead a team of young Emiratis, 2/3 of which are women, 2/3 of which are youth, who are with diverse backgrounds coming from engineering, legal, civil servant backgrounds, but all committed to multilateralism, to facilitating a strong outcome, to working with parties and defining success, working towards that, and working towards delivery to meet the gap that we have to by 2030. They're also emerging leaders in the global fight against climate change, and I'm very proud of having built that capacity with all colleagues and under the leadership, of course, of their excellencies and His Excellency Adnan as well, who you all know well too, and excited to see where they go from here in working with the world in delivering all of this. Of course, we'll be working with parties and this week supporting the SB chairs in making progress across the technical negotiations. I would like to highlight one that's very close to my heart, having co-chaired an early contact group on this, and this is the global stocktake. I truly believe that this is an opportunity for a new era of climate action. And I think His Excellency Dr. Sultan expects no less. But as he said, we also have heard from parties a clear political will to make the most of this opportunity, to build on it so that we can slash emissions, we can build resilience, and we can ensure support for developing countries in this transition. His Excellency Majid has elaborated how we're going to use the next 2 weeks on that very well. But perhaps I'll speak a little bit about what we have to do on the technical side. With more than 160 items on the agenda, it was very critical for us to get this agenda adopted fast. And so there were over 40 consultations in the last month with all regional groups and parties to be able to get here. And we're very grateful for the flexibility shown by all parties, working closely with His Excellency Adnan, our head of delegation, in order to get to a point where we have a timely adoption. The other critical news item today is, of course, the capitalization, not just operationalization, of the Loss and Damage Fund and funding arrangements. Having had the honor of serving on the Transitional Committee on behalf of the incoming presidency, I can tell you that that was a group of people that were determined to see how we could ensure that this process demonstrates that multilateralism works, that when parties come together, and after 30 years of arguing of the definition of loss and damage, let alone how it is that we would address it, that when we've said that we're going to operationalize this thing in 1 year, that we can do that. And we've also seen the willingness today that I think exceeded expectations in many ways of ensuring that this is not an empty bank account. That was a challenge that Dr. Sultan set to parties back in June, I believe, and that has really, really come through. So very encouraged by that and hopeful that this translates into the negotiations over the next couple of weeks. Very keen to build on the momentum, to support the subsidiary body chairs as much as we can this week. It's my hope that they can get pretty much all of the work out of the way and we can celebrate together next week, but let's see what we can do. And let's deliver this COP together. Everyone has a role to play, and the time for delivery is now. So we look forward to your questions, of course, but really to your important role in bringing the story of what we do here to the world and ensuring that we're empowering everyone to be a part of this new era for global climate action. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have time now for a few questions. Let me start, gentleman, second row. The next colleague. Could you please identify yourself, who you're working with, and wait for the microphone? Yes.
Thank you. Ivan Kuron of AFP. Dr. Sultan, congratulations on the loss and damage on the agenda. In your speech, you mentioned the inclusion of the role of fossil fuels. On that particular point, in your recent discussions with parties, have you seen any movement towards a compromise on that particular matter?
Well, first I must say, I was very much encouraged by the initial responses I got. And that actually even motivated me to aim to raise more ambition, especially when it comes to the inclusion of oil and gas and fossil fuel in general. My invitation today to all parties is an invitation I extended a few months ago in multiple platforms to many different stakeholders, where I told them clearly, we want this COP to be a different COP. We want this COP and this presidency to deliver different results. And we want it to have an unprecedented outcome. We have been entrusted to conduct the first global stocktake. Our response to that must be the maximum and the highest ambition possible. And we shouldn't leave any stone unturned. So my open invitation that I have been extending to all relevant parties and stakeholders to engage in a collaborative manner, to engage with a different mindset, that compromise is going to be essential. It's going to be a catalyst and an enabler for us to be able to reach the maximum and the highest ambition GST. At the same time, I've asked for all parties to convene, to engage, to collaborate, to cooperate, and to discuss openly, and to come to the presidency with options, with recommendations, with proposals that have common ground and consensus among all parties. And what you're going to see as a reaction from us is full transparency and full inclusion. And we will move and deliver and implement what the parties reach consensus on.
The lady here in the first row, first seat.
My name is Sophie Mkwena from the South African Broadcasting Corporation. I just want to find out from the UN and the president of COP, in terms of the global stocktake, what are the sticky issues in terms of the report that you have for those who are compiling information, and how are you going to ensure that you are able to navigate perhaps the challenges that might arise?
Thank you for that question. I mean, the first thing is that this is a party-driven process. So it is for parties, countries to determine the direction that this takes. The UNFCCC Secretariat produced a synthesis report a few weeks ago, which was the culmination of 180 submissions from parties, over 40 submissions from non-state actors. And all of the elements that set out basically provide, one, a representative of where we are, and we know already that there is a massive ambition and implementation gap. We're nowhere near where we need to be, but it also highlighted areas of progress, areas of best practice, but also outlined all of the elements, the tools that parties can draw upon here in Dubai, that depending on the levels of ambition that they show, those that want to see, when we talk about a strong outcome of the GST, it has to inform the next round of NDCs and all of the elements that's contained in a nationally determined contribution. So there are discussions amongst parties and different views as to how prescriptive or how non-prescriptive the GST should be. So that's one area that, that will be up for debate over these coming days. The other is how forward-looking the GST should be, and the other view is how backward-looking it should be. And this speaks to all of the elements that are covered under the GST, whether that's finance, whether it's adaptation, mitigation, loss and damage. What we have found, certainly from the synthesis report, is that there is an imbalance between mitigation contributions and views as to how the mitigation agenda progresses versus adaptation. But within the scope of negotiations between now and the 12th, you have the different, if you like, work streams. So the global goal and adaptation, there is an opportunity for parties to still put forward positions in terms of what the final product of the global goal on adaptation will be, and then how that feeds up into the GST. And the same for the mitigation work program. So the GST will be the overarching deliverable for this COP, which will contain every single element that would traditionally be under negotiation. The question is whether parties take a top-down approach, looking at where this global stocktake, which is supposed to be that course-correcting provision within the Paris Agreement, or whether it'll be a bottom-up approach from a baseline of all of those negotiating tracks.
Ambassador?
Yeah, thank you. When we started at the beginning of this year, there was like a huge gulf between what people thought the global stocktake should be about. From some people who just wanted one line to those who wanted like a full book, a binder of what the global stocktake should say. And over the course of this year, we have really managed to bring the parties together. I think that Simon has described very well the scope of what the global stocktake is about. We have a clearer picture of what we're trying to achieve. But we, as a COP president, have been saying from the very beginning that we're focused on that 1.5 and how we keep that within reach, and how we need to use this moment to course correct, because we know fundamentally that we're not on track to achieving it. So how is this global stocktake not just going to deliver some nice words on paper, as Dr. Sultan just said, but real world impact that gets us back on track, that achieves our 1.5 degree goals? And remember, it focuses the mind. Our COP is about the next 7 years. It's about what we can do today to get us to those Paris goals of 2030. Because we can't claim that great success that we claim today from Paris if we can't show how that agreement can deliver. And if we can't achieve our 2030 goals, how are we going to achieve our 2050 goals? So it's a really critical moment in this process that we deliver the trust, we deliver the ambition, and we deliver the path that gets us there. And we can only do that by bringing everybody together and delivering a really ambitious outcome.
The lady in the green dress here, first row.
Thank you so much. It's Fifi Peters from CNBC Africa. Dr. Stiell, to you, you did describe the conversations around loss and damage as challenging. And I'd just like to know how the various contributions were determined by some of the donor countries already. It is quite noticeable that the US has committed the smallest amount, and the fact that the likes of China and India, for instance, aren't amongst the list that we have received so far. So if you could just advise how we should interpret that. And also to you, sir, Dr. Sultan, ahead of this conference in Nairobi, the Africa Climate Finance Summit did take place. And for the first time, we did see African countries coming together, 54 nations of the African Union, in one collaborative stance, it would seem, to get greater climate justice for the continent, a continent that is the most impacted, yet responsible for the least emissions. Just your thoughts on that summit and the Nairobi Declaration that was also adopted. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. I think what is significant for me, and it should be for all of us in this room, is the unprecedented nature of the response from some donor countries, not just the adoption of the recommendations coming out of the committee, which bring the fund and the funding arrangement to life, but the fact that within moments of gaveling, parties, donors willing to put close to $500 million into that fund. Pledging will continue over the course of the next 2 days with the Leaders' Summit. I believe some countries would prefer to make those statements on the grander stage of the Leaders' Summit. But the formal process of how the fund will be capitalized in a sustainable way moving forward, these are decisions that will be made by the board that can now be established now that this decision has been adopted. So there's a long road ahead. What is also clear is the scale of loss and damages globally. And to service this fund, a single extreme weather event can destroy. I take my own country of Grenada. Back in 1994, a hurricane wiped out 200%, equivalent of 200% of our GDP in a matter of hours. So when you start aggregating this up, and you start looking at all of the different climate-related losses, the scale that will be required and the mechanisms, which is why it's funding arrangements, is complex and is going to require deep engagement by all donors. So I'm certainly encouraged and welcome all contributions raised. That was an absolute surprise, pleasant surprise. But if that approach were to continue, I think it bodes well in terms of the next steps for that full operationalization process.
Allow me to answer your question by first saying, thank you for asking me this question at this very important time. Because I actually don't think that the Africa Climate Summit got or received its fair chance in terms of international media coverage. I did find that platform to be one very important, unique, well-equipped platform to help ascend Africa into a greener future. Why do I say that? I've engaged as part of my fact-finding mission with intensity this year on the Global South, developing countries and emerging markets. And I must say, my engagements with Africa, and in particular throughout the Africa Climate Summit, were in a big way very beneficial in helping us better shape our strategy and our set of objectives for COP28. So in a way, it was a platform that have helped catalyze the COP28 ability to better refine its plans and objectives to cater for what is really needed today, and that is an action-oriented agenda to help address the global challenge and to keep 1.5 within reach. We also went to Africa well prepared and equipped with political will and support from our own leadership and hands-on experience. Our ability to be able to couple the political will and the hands-on experience we have enabled us to go with a very special proposition to Africa, and that is the Africa fund that we have announced and already launched and started actually deploying in Africa of $4.5 billion with 5 entities representing the UAE. The mandate of that fund is simply to replicate what Masdar have been doing over the past 17 years. Masdar would go identify a specific renewable energy opportunity. We would work with the host country on the regulatory framework or the policy that is required that will help ensure the security of that project for the investors. And we also helped, through this experience of Masdar, replicate it but scale it up. And that's why we provided a $3 billion of equity and 1.5 of catalytic funding. That is more of a concessional development funding that will help catalyze these investments. 1, 2, attract private capital, help risk mitigate, and ensure that the private capital is safe and secure by providing them the necessary assurances through this fund. This fund, because it already started deploying, I can comfortably tell you, we started with 4.5. In 3 years, this is not going to be less than $25 billion. Why? There is a huge set of opportunities across Africa. What is required is a creative mind that will help blend finance between equity and development to ensure that we provide the necessary scale in terms of financing and to deploy large-scale technology to help meet the growing energy needs in Africa, while also helping develop a new economic development program in these countries, creating jobs, attracting industries, capacity building, transferring knowledge and technology, ensuring that we start manufacturing some of these products that are necessarily needed to ensure the resilience of supply in these different markets. So it's the whole value chain of business that we cater for through this fund. And I must say, what President Ruto have been able to do over the past few years, and in particular when it comes to climate action, is unprecedented, and we very much appreciate his effort.
Thank you. If I may elaborate also on the loss and damage question as well, because needs is exactly the right question to ask. It is what exactly are we trying to fund? I think within the scope, the complexity that we're working on, this is something that's never been done before. This is fundamentally new, and it fundamentally needed an agile approach, something that can grow over time, something that can receive funds from a broad variety of sources, and something that fundamentally works towards recovering development losses while supporting countries in also anticipating losses to come, right? So it's both the rapid and the slow onset. It's economic and non-economic losses, such as loss of culture, which is not necessarily something you can quantify. And in that sense, I think that one of the areas that's particularly interesting is how the fund actually functions with the broader funding arrangements, but also with the broader outcomes that we need to come up with in the negotiations outcomes at this COP. And that includes operationalization of the Santiago network, which provides technical assistance then to developing countries to be able to deal with losses and damages. It includes broader agreements beyond loss and damage, including adopting a GGA framework. You can build resilience and ensure that countries are building adaptive capacity, but more able to respond and adapt to climate impacts, preserving lives and livelihoods. And this is where both the action that we're achieving, the action agenda of the COP, and the policies that we're setting that enable countries to respond are important. The mitigation outcomes are critically important as well. And so you're minimizing the risks, of course, of loss and damage by also not taking away development gains from that side. So how is it that you can have a just transition in this place? This COP will have the adoption of a Just Transition Work Program. So we look at, for the first time, how it is that we can ensure that we're keeping sustainable development also at the heart of our climate action, and poverty eradication at the heart of that as well. There are a number of other agenda items that I think will all support this, but that also speaks to the question on areas to that need further deliberation under the global stocktake, for lack of a better term. I would encourage everyone to really watch the high-level events that we will have on the global stocktake tomorrow and the day after. Here we'll have a number of heads of state and government that come forward to share their vision of where they think we need to be by 2030 and how it is we're going to get there. I'd really encourage you to place close attention so that we can capture key messages from that and build from there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have to finish here. There are other commitments waiting. So thank you very much again. And thanks once again for your patience. There will be daily updates from the presidency. So there are 2 slots every day, 9:30, 1:30. Please take a look at the screens and you will see what time is working. Let me just give you a few numbers, because we all know it's a record participation. Let me just give you the big numbers, and you can come to me then and I give you the details. So we have 52,081 delegates from parties, 19,132 observers, 3,976 media. Then there's a category host country, global climate action, and virtual participation. In total is about 9,000. That adds up to 84,000 plus security, technical staff, volunteers. The total number at the moment, 104,652 from this afternoon, 4 p.m. Thank you and see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.